All right, so when we left off, they were going on their rant about Joe Mixon. So now let's see how they finish out.
And it matters whether we think that there's any part of us that's saying that we care more about the NFL because now we know he'll get really rich for it, right? Granted, we needed to see the video to really know, but a lot of people were saying it's okay, he got a second chance. Now we're making him go through the whole thing all over again for the NFL. Maybe in part because we're like, do you deserve to be making millions of dollars and held up in front of people as some sort of idol?
Yeah.
Are you deserve to be held up in front of millions of people as in regards to anything? Are you a decent writer? Are you a legitimate commentator on society? All right, can you name an article that you've written that has been commended for anything? What have you done? I didn't say who have you done to get to where you're at. I said what have you done. I'm sure the list of who you've done will be much longer than what you've done.
Yeah, well, in many ways, deserves got nothing to do with it. It's what the market is.
You should know. You should know what it's like to get things that you don't deserve. Deserve has nothing to do with it. I agree. Because if we were actually going to evaluate Joe Mixon on what he deserves, he does deserve to get drafted by the NFL based on his skill level and the fact that in a court of law, he's been relatively exonerated. He's on probation, but he's not been convicted of any form of crime. And the only reason why he was put on probation, relative probation, is because of the how much that issue has been broadcast by the media.
Is can you play, and the market has dictated he gets a second
and
chance.
to me, it's what has he done? Like, what has he learned about this, and what is the league learning? Okay.
That's cold word. When they say, what have you learned? What they're saying is that, are you back under proper indoctrination now? Have you learned that under no circumstances, even when a female attacks you, are you permitted to hit her back? And once again, let me establish that he clearly was out of control mentally, most likely because he was drunk. Because if he was in control, he wouldn't have even been out at that hour as a prospective professional athlete. He should not have even been out at that hour. Right? If you, like I said before, if you're still up at 1 a.m., you should be getting up in some ass or something like that. You know what I'm saying? You should not be out putting yourself in those type of positions. So that's the reason why he ended up in the situation that he ended up in. But when a female like this says, "What have you learned?" what she's really saying is, have you accepted the fact that I'm your God?
Okay, because it can't just be all window dressing. There has to be something happening that's different, so that if there is accountability when things like this happen, when he's a member of the league, that it's not just this kind of like, we're all going to pretend everything's going to be great. No, it's like, how are you helping him get into the league and to succeed, not just on the field but off?
And that's why the combine, we got to go. That's why the combine was problematic, so more coaches could have that opportunity to sit down, talk to him. It doesn't erase what he did, but I know Vance Joseph has his past, Kate, but I'm okay with somebody saying, you know what, I was impressed by him. Again, that doesn't mean that he didn't do an awful thing, but because he did an awful thing doesn't necessarily mean that he's susceptible to doing it again and again and again.
Even the black man, Michael Smith, had to address what the lesbian said about the coach and how what he said is not valid because he got caught up in something 13 years ago. Now, I wonder if we were going to check her past for what she got caught up in 13 years ago, what we would find.
And again, so.
All right, ESPN Radio, 9 to midnight.
Yeah,
Sure
more of that.
Nobody's going to listen to that nonsense. ESPN Radio, 9 to midnight. You know, as they put them on 9 to midnight, that's when all the games are being played. There ain't nobody's listening to their nonsense.
Check it out.
This guy.
There's a little bit of you.
I am.
Anyway, this is another little afternoon show that I DVR'd. It's called The Jump. It's on ESPN. It stars another super liberal feminazi. I believe her name Rachel Nichols, and she oftentimes has two sidekick Negro males with her. This time she has Steven Jackson, a former player in the NBA, and a man of East African origin, so-called East African origin, who likes to put on the air of a black man of the captivity, of a so-called black man of the captivity. In other words, he likes to try to act like a Western or Western civilization black, but he's actually from East Africa, and I believe his name is Amin El Hassan. And he oftentimes makes relevant or good points. He had a history in the NBA as a scout, I believe it was, and as an executive. So let's see what they have to say about this issue involving Becky Hammon.
Spurs assistant Becky Becky Hammon turning down an offer to become the head coach of the Florida women's team. Reports indicate she wants to continue to focus on becoming the first female NBA head coach.
And you can see, whenever you see this stuff, and you could just tell by her body language, she just wishes that she was a man so bad. And a lot of that is the fault of a lot of males out there who are raising their daughters as males. You know, in the Candace Wiggins video, I got some backlash from certain black males, especially, who talked about how their daughters were playing basketball and yada, yada, yada. You have to understand something. I'm not going to tell anybody how to raise their child or their daughters. Right? Whatever you do is what you do. But when you put your child through a certain curriculum, whatever that may be, that's going to lean their functionality a certain way. Like right now in Hollywood, what they're doing right now is they have this program where they're raising children in the opposite gender. So like, for example, Charlize Theron is raising a couple of her children. I can't remember how many she adopted, but she's raising one who happens to be a black boy, so-called black boy, as a girl. I believe Gwen Stefani has a child that she's raising as a female, even though he's a male. And the Jolies, they had a daughter that they were raising as a boy. They're doing that as experimentation, right? They have this asexual agenda, right, where there's no gender. Like Will Smith's kids say that they don't have a gender. That's part of the worship of the god Pan. I'll touch on that later. But in the Hollywood circles, in the entertainment circles, they worship the god Pan, or as some of the people who are in the quote-unquote conspiracy realm called Baphomet. But it's really the god Pan. And it goes back to ancient Egypt, the god Ptah. All right? The god Ptah was the god of fertility. He was always depicted with an erect phallus. Right? That's where we get the name Peter from. Right? The name Peter means rock, as anybody who knows the scriptures knows. That comes from the Egyptian god Ptah. All right? He was always depicted with an erect phallus. Supposedly the sperm of his phallus is what created the other gods. That's also where you get the colloquialism of the male penis, Peter, from. Right? Now, Ptah went on to become known in Greece. When the Greeks adopted his worship, he became known as Pan. He was the half man, half goat who lived out in the forest, and he played the pipes. And when he played the pipes, he would attract children to him, and he would engage in pederasty, meaning sexual intercourse with those children. All right? Children would become lost whenever he played the pipes. They would leave their homes and they would go out to the forest, and he would engage in sexual intercourse with them. All right? The god Pan. So now in Egypt, like I said, ancient Egypt, he was known as Ptah. In Greece, he was known as Pan. That's where Disney got the character of Peter Pan from, or the original writer, I believe his name was J.M. Barrie. He was also a pedophile, allegedly. All right. So that's where, everything is connected on a string. So that's where we get the term pansexual from today. A pansexual is somebody who likes all sexes. They engage in everything, male, female, animal, whatever. All right. That's the agenda, or one of the main sexual agendas of the so-called quote unquote elite. All right. So that's why every time you turn around, they want to put males in female positions. They want to put female in male positions. They want to bring the children into it. Right. Pan, the god Pan, also played the Pan pipes. All right. He was known as the piper. He would lure children in with his pipes. Remember Peter Pan, he had the Lost Boys. All right. Peter Pan is a watered down pedophile figure. All right. I believe R. Kelly also called himself the Pied Piper. All right. Now we all know his relationship with children, particularly young girls, I should say. But anyway, not to digress. Let's get back to this story. Let's see how they cover it, and let's see how this female Rachel Nichols, how she conducts herself with her two cohorts.
Commissioner Adam Silver saying he believes there will be a female head coach.
You can look at this guy and see he's a homosexual. I mean, who can't see this? Allegedly. I believe that's next to him. I believe that this is his so-called wife.
Head coach wants it to happen, quote, sooner rather than later. What do you think of this?
I think it'll happen, and I think it'll be Becky Hammon. Here's the thing.
You think? It's obviously going to be Becky Hammon. Who else is it going to be?
For me, what I've observed, players, when you see someone walk in the door and say, I'm your new head coach, and you haven't worked here before, if you're an ex-NBA player, they're going to give you a benefit of the doubt. Mm-hmm. Now, you're going to have to prove that you know your stuff, and if you prove that you don't know your stuff, then they're going to tune you out. But for a non-ex player, regardless of gender or anything like that, usually you have to work within that organization, and guys will then respect you. So you think about guys like Eric Spoelstra, Mike Brown, Frank Vogel. These are guys that started as video coordinators, Alvin Gentry, and then worked their way up, finally building that goodwill and that trust from the players. I think Becky's got in a position to do it. But if you tell me like a head coach from college is going to come into the WNBA, I'd say no.
Right, but Becky's in the middle there. She did not play NBA basketball. She did play professional basketball.
Watch how emotional this female Rachel Nichols gets over. I mean, and these guys, they try to tell her the truth, but in a watered down way to know, because of course, like I stated earlier, they have to guard her feelings because number one, this is her show. So they have to try to guard her feelings, knowing that they're talking to a female and also they're on her show. But they still tell her the truth, just in a watered down form, and still watch how emotional she gets.
It doesn't
quite well, by the way.
It doesn't matter. They're always just, well, did you play in this league? But
I don't haven't spoken to Spurs players. I don't agree with you. To them.
Now notice he already said. Now Amina El-Hassan, if you don't know, is a former scout with the Phoenix Suns, a former executive with the Phoenix Suns. He's giving her some insight in regards to what he saw firsthand in locker rooms. Now she's going to pull the I spoke to Spurs players card as if because she's a media member, allegedly she has some insight into how they're going to interact with Becky Hammon, right? And she probably didn't speak to anybody. She's probably just talking shit. But watch what happens with their interaction.
It seems to matter. Are you a baller or not? I mean, what would you think?
Well, if any woman is going to be a coach, it's going to be Becky.
Right.
If any woman is qualified, it's going to be Becky. Right.
In other words, she's the only one who has a right to get the job. You see how he said it? He said if any woman is going to be the boss or going to be the coach, pardon me, it's going to be Becky. In other words, he said she's the only one who even nearly has the credibility.
Right.
I think as far as the only problem will be you have a lot of players that's making the most money that they've ever made in the NBA. Mm-hmm. So how are you going to tell a guy that's making 25, 30 million that he made the wrong play, he just sit down coming from a woman? I think guys, it's going to be harder for guys to respect her. Is she ready? Yeah. If she can do it, yeah. But I just think the guys and their egos it's going to be hard to accept that because these NBA players have big egos and it's going to be hard to accept authority.
Now he's trying to tell her the truth. Watch how emotional she gets again.
From her.
I think it's the other way around in the NBA, especially. This is a league.
They don't respect the coaches now.
Well, I was going to say.
That's what I was about to say.
This is a league where you have, who do we see in the stands? We see the moms, right?
Once again, like I stated, I think it was in part 1 of this series. These liberal females, they try to use the mother card as a mind control mechanism. You can accept a female as your coach because you had a mom, right? Liberal females actually believe that they should be held in the same esteem as your mother. Why is that? Because they know that the mother has an emotional connection to you from the umbilical cord. They want to have the same prestige in your view as you have for your mother. That's a mind control technique that a lot of liberal females use. While you listen to your mother, you should listen to me. Right? It really is an insult to a man's mother that the average female thinks that you should view her like how you view your mother, as an authoritative figure.
Right? Mm-hmm. This is a league where players respect their mothers. I see that over and over again. And we see with the stars of this league how they talk about women and how they respect women. Yes,
because, the stars of the super liberal NBA are going to get on TV and tell you the truth about the groupies and about the gold diggers and so on and so forth. Yeah, that's going to happen.
I think that this league is more ready for a female coach than any other.
Well, what would we expect you to say? Well, the NBA is not ready right now. Maybe in a few years.
And I think that Becky's playing experience does come into play here.
But I don't think it's a playing experience. If it was just her, she played overseas and now she's going to be on coach. If it was
playing experience, we'll be talking Lisa Leslie,
exactly.
Cheryl Swoops.
It's because...
Well, we know that they're not going to hire a so-called black female coach for the NBA. All right? If there's going to be a first female coach, it's going to be a so-called white woman. We already know that. All right, now look at Rachel Nichols' face. She's looking heated right now. She's getting heated right now because she's like, "You two niggers, you are supposed to agree with me."
She's been working in the coaching
You
staff.
have the pop glow on you as well.
and
Anyone
that
who's
never hurts.
associated with that organization gets respect.
You're an angel.
Absolutely. All right, it's time for Make or Miss.
Right, so that's it on this series. Anyway, brothers, in summation, what do I believe is going to happen? I believe that Popovich is going to step down from coaching the Spurs in the next 2 to 3 years. He's going to keep Hammond on staff, and eventually she's going to take over as coach of the Spurs. By then, they will have indoctrinated Kawhi Leonard into accepting her as an authoritative figure, and he will try to bring his play on the court. They will try to use him to help bring validity to her as a coach over men. Eventually, it's going to fizzle out because it's just unnatural for men to follow a woman, and she's going to go by the wayside, and we won't see any more female coaches in the NBA. That is my prognostication for that. All right. So anyway, brothers, peace.